I spent 2,103 days in a cage. Not a metaphorical cage, an actual cage. 7 feet long, 5 feet wide, 6 feet high. Concrete floor, concrete walls, metal door, no windows. A bucket in the corner for waste. That was my world for nearly 6 years. That was where North Vietnam kept me after my F-4 Phantom got shot down over Hanoi in 1967. I'm writing this in March 1980. Sitting in my home in San Diego. 7 years since they released me. 7 years since Operation Homecoming brought us POWs home. 7 years of trying to be normal again. Trying to be the man I was before. Trying to forget what they did to us in those prisons. I can't forget. The memories are too vivid, too permanent, too much a part of who I am now. My name is Colonel David Mitchell. At least, that's my name now. In the prison, I was just a number. Prisoner 447. That's what the guards called me. Not David, not Mitchell, just 447. They took our names, took our identities, tried to take our humanity. I was a Navy pilot, F-4 Phantom, USS Constellation. We were flying missions over North Vietnam, bombing runs, air superiority, rolling thunder, all the operations designed to break North Vietnam's will to fight. They didn't break. We just kept bombing. They just kept shooting us down. September 12th, 1967, that's the day my life changed. We were on a strike mission near Hanoi, SAM site suppression. I was the pilot. My RIO, radar intercept officer, was Lieutenant Tom Bradley from Texas. Good guy, good officer. We'd flown together for 8 months. The SAM, surface-to-air missile, came up fast. We didn't see it until too late. Hit us in the tail, lost hydraulics, lost control. The bird was going down. We ejected at maybe 5,000 feet. I remember the canopy blowing off. The seat rocket firing, the sudden jerk of the parachute opening. Then I was floating down over North Vietnam, over enemy territory, over Hanoi. I could see the city below, see people looking up, see them pointing. I knew what was coming. We'd been briefed. POWs in North Vietnam were tortured, paraded in propaganda films, held in brutal conditions. Some died in captivity. Some went insane. The lucky ones were just held until the war ended, if the war ever ended. I hit the ground in a rice paddy, tried to run, didn't make it far. Militia grabbed me, farmers with rifles. They beat me, not badly, just enough to subdue me. Tied my hands, marched me to a truck. I was a prisoner. Tom landed maybe a mile away. I never saw him again. Found out later he died on impact. Chute didn't open properly. He hit the ground at full speed. Died instantly. Lucky bastard. He didn't have to endure what came next. They took me to Hoa Lo prison. The French built it as a colonial prison. The Vietnamese kept it for prisoners of war. We called it the Hanoi Hilton. Ironic name for hell on earth. The first thing they did was interrogate me. Name, rank, serial number. That's all I gave them. That's all the code of conduct required. Name, rank, serial number. They wanted more. Military information, flight plans, targeting data, propaganda confessions. I refused. So they made me comply. The torture started that first day. Rope torture. They'd tie your arms behind your back, cinch the ropes tight, lift you up until your shoulders dislocated, leave you hanging for hours. The pain was indescribable, beyond anything I'd experienced, beyond anything I thought possible. I held out for 3 days, then I broke, told them what they wanted, made false confessions, said whatever they wanted me to say. The pain was too much. I couldn't take it anymore. That's what torture does. It doesn't extract truth. It extracts compliance. You'll say anything to make it stop. Admit to crimes you didn't commit. Betray information you don't have. Whatever they want, just make the pain stop. After I broke, They put me in a cell, 7 by 5 by 6, concrete box. That became my home, my world, my entire universe for years. The conditions were brutal: starvation rations, thin soup twice a day, bread when they felt generous. I lost 60 pounds in the first year, went from 180 to 120, bones showing, ribs visible, wasting away. The isolation was worse than the hunger. Solitary confinement, weeks at a time, months. No human contact except guards bringing food. No communication with other prisoners. No news from outside. Just silence and darkness and your own thoughts eating away at your sanity. We developed ways to communicate, tap code, based on a 5 by 5 grid of letters, tap out coordinates to spell words. We'd tap through the walls, cell to cell, simple messages. Who are you? Stay strong. God bless. Connection. Proof we weren't alone. The guards called it criminal communication. Punished us when they caught us. More torture, more isolation, more deprivation. But we kept doing it. Had to. The alternative was going mad from loneliness. I spent 6 years in that prison system. They moved us around. Different camps, different cells, always the same conditions, always the same hunger, cold, isolation, torture. 6 years of surviving one day at a time. 6 years of wondering if I'd ever see home again. 6 years of becoming something other than the man I was. The war finally ended. January 1973. Paris Peace Accords, ceasefire, prisoner exchange, Operation Homecoming. We were going home. I didn't believe it at first. We'd heard rumors before, false hopes. This time, it was real. They started releasing us in February 1973, by rank and shoot-down date. I was released March 14th, 1973, after 2,103 days in captivity. 7 years ago, 7 years since I walked out of that prison. 7 years since I flew home to a country that had changed while I was gone. 7 years of trying to reintegrate, trying to heal, trying to be normal. I'm not normal. Can't be. 6 years in a cage changes you. Torture changes you. Starvation changes you. Isolation changes you. You don't come back from that unchanged. You don't come back whole. But I came back. I survived. That's what matters. I survived when others didn't. Survived when I sometimes wanted to die. Survived because giving up meant they won. This is 1980, 7 years later. I'm writing this because people need to know, need to understand what happened to us in those prisons, what North Vietnam did to American POWs, what torture is really like, what survival costs. This is my story. This is what it was like. This is the truth. The cell became my entire world, 7 feet by 5 feet, 35 square feet, smaller than most people's bathrooms. That was everything, sleeping, eating, existing, all in 35 square feet of concrete. The daily routine was monotonous, designed to break you through boredom as much as cruelty. Wake at dawn when guards banged on the doors. Morning meal, thin soup, maybe some bread. Sit, wait, nothing to do, nothing to read, nothing to occupy your mind except your own thoughts. The thoughts were the enemy. Left alone with yourself for hours, days, weeks, your mind turns inward. You remember everything you've lost, everyone you miss, every mistake you've made, every regret. The thoughts spiral, down and down, into depression, into despair, into madness if you're not careful. I developed routines to fight it, mental exercises. I'd design houses in my head, room by room, every detail, materials, dimensions, layouts. Took hours, kept my mind occupied, kept me from spiraling. I'd replay movies I'd seen, scene by scene, dialogue as I remembered it. Took days to work through a single film. Then I'd start another. I'd plan trips, where I'd go when I got out, if I got out. Route planning, landmarks, hotels, every detail. a fantasy future to counter the nightmare present. Other POWs did similar things. We'd share through tap code. One guy memorized an entire cookbook. Another designed a car engine. Anything to keep the mind active, keep it from eating itself. The guards were unpredictable. Some were indifferent, would bring food, empty waste buckets, leave. Others were cruel, would find excuses to punish. Disrespectful attitude, illegal communication, violation of camp regulations. Regulations they never explained and changed arbitrarily. Punishment meant torture. Rope torture was standard, but there were variations, leg irons, stocks, being forced to kneel on sharp edges for hours, being hung from walls in stress positions, being beaten with bamboo rods, creative cruelty. The goal was compliance. They wanted us to make propaganda statements, denounce America, confess to war crimes, write letters condemning the war. Some men refused, held out, took the torture, stayed strong. Most of us broke eventually. I did, multiple times. The pain reaches a point where you'll do anything to make it stop, where death seems preferable, but they won't let you die. They just keep hurting you until you comply. The guilt afterward was crushing, knowing you'd broken, knowing you'd said things you didn't believe, knowing you'd given them what they wanted. Felt like betrayal, betrayal of your country, your fellow prisoners, yourself. But we learned to forgive each other, learned that everyone has a breaking point, that the code of conduct required resistance but couldn't account for sustained torture, that surviving was what mattered. Stay alive, come home. That was the mission. The senior ranking officer, SRO, would pass guidance through tap code. Resist as long as you can, but it's okay to break. Just bounce back. Resist again. Make them work for every confession. Permission to be human. Permission to survive. The seasons were marked by temperature. Summer was brutal. The cells were ovens. Concrete absorbing heat. No ventilation. We'd lie on the floor, trying to find cool spots. Drinking our water rations slowly. Trying not to dehydrate. Many prisoners got heat stroke. Some died. Winter was worse. North Vietnam gets cold. The cells had no heat. We had thin blankets. We'd shiver through the night. Wrap ourselves tight. Try to preserve body heat. Frostbite on fingers and toes. Illness, pneumonia, more deaths. The medical care was non-existent. Sick prisoners were ignored unless they were useful for propaganda. See how well we treat POW's films showing doctors attending to prisoners. All staged, all lies. The reality was benign neglect at best, deliberate deprivation at worst. I got dysentery in 1969, lost another 20 pounds. Thought I'd die, prayed I'd die. The pain was constant. I couldn't keep food down, could barely keep water down, wasted to nothing. Somehow survived. Body adapted, or the disease ran its course, don't know which. The worst torture wasn't physical, it was psychological. They'd tell us lies designed to break our spirits. America has abandoned you. Your families think you're dead. The war is lost. You'll never go home. Constant propaganda. Constant attempts to destroy hope. Sometimes they'd mix truth with lies, make it harder to know what to believe. President Kennedy was assassinated. That was true, but they'd add lies. America has surrendered. Your carrier was sunk, breaking you down mentally when they couldn't break you physically. The worst moment came in 1970, 3 years into captivity. A guard came to my cell. "You have mail." Mail. First mail in 3 years, a letter from home from my wife. I was shaking as I opened it. It wasn't from my wife. It was from the guards, forged, telling me she'd divorced me, remarried, moved on. I was dead to her. They'd included fake court documents, made it look official. I knew it might be fake, psychological warfare. But I couldn't be sure. 3 years of no contact. Maybe she had moved on. Maybe I was dead to her. The doubt ate away at me. Turned out it was fake, found out after release. She'd written me hundreds of letters. The North Vietnamese intercepted them all, never delivered them, just used them for propaganda purposes and psychological torture. But for 3 years, I believed she'd abandoned me. 3 years of that weight, that despair, that certainty I had nothing to come home to. That's what psychological torture does. Plants doubts you can't shake, destroys the anchors that keep you sane. Other prisoners had similar experiences. False death notifications of family members. Fake Dear John letters. Intercepted mail that was edited to remove anything positive. Systematic destruction of morale through manufactured despair. The propaganda films were another form of torture. They'd force us to make statements denouncing the war, admitting to war crimes we didn't commit, reading scripts they wrote, all while cameras rolled. They'd edit the footage, cut out the parts where we blinked in Morse code, Torture. Cut out the wooden delivery that showed we were coerced, make it look like genuine confessions, broadcast it internationally, use it to demoralize America, prove their cause was just. We hated making those films, hated being used for propaganda, but we had no choice. They'd torture us until we complied, then torture us more if our performance wasn't convincing. There was no winning, just degrees of losing. The isolation was its own torture. Weeks in solitary, no human contact, no stimulation, just you and your thoughts in a concrete box. Time lost meaning, days blurred together. You'd lose track, stop counting, stop caring. Some men went mad from it, started talking to themselves, hallucinating, losing touch with reality. The guards would leave them in isolation longer. Punishment for mental weakness, as if madness was a choice, as if anyone could endure indefinite isolation without breaking. I came close several times. The darkness would close in. The walls would seem to shrink. I'd feel myself slipping, losing grip on who I was, becoming just a number, just prisoner 447. Not David Mitchell, not a human being. Just a thing in a cage. I'd fight it, force myself to remember my wife's face, my parents, friends, memories from before, cling to them, use them as anchors, remind myself I was human, had been human, would be human again if I survived. The tap code saved me, connection with other prisoners, even just a few taps through the wall. GN for good night, GBU for God bless you. Simple messages, but profound. Proof I wasn't alone. Proof others were enduring the same hell. Proof humanity still existed. We formed a community through those taps, shared information, boosted morale, told jokes in tap code, prayed together, celebrated holidays by tapping Merry Christmas or Happy 4th of July. Small acts of resistance. Small assertions of humanity in a place designed to strip it away. The guards hated it, tried to stop it. Moved prisoners who communicated too much, punished us. But we kept doing it. Had to. The alternative was surrendering, accepting isolation, accepting they'd broken us completely. We never surrendered, not completely. We broke. We complied when tortured. We made propaganda statements. We gave them victories, but we never surrendered our core, never accepted we were just numbers, never stopped being human. That was our resistance. That was how we survived. Years passed. 1968 became 1969. 1969 became 1970. The war dragged on. We heard about it through propaganda broadcasts the guards would play. American casualties, protests at home, political divisions. They'd tell us America was losing, that we'd been abandoned, that we'd die in these cells. We tried not to believe them, tried to maintain hope. But hope is hard when you're starving and tortured and isolated. when you don't know if the war will ever end, when you can't see an end point, when every day is the same suffering. Some prisoners gave up, stopped fighting, stopped resisting, just existed, waiting to die. The guards called them cooperators, prisoners who'd make propaganda statements willingly, who'd betray other prisoners, who'd given up everything for slightly better treatment. We hated them. They were traitors, collaborators, broke the code. But I understood them too. Everyone has limits. Everyone breaks eventually. They'd just broken more completely than the rest of us. Surrendered rather than fought. Easier to judge than to understand. I never became a cooperator. Never willingly helped them. But I came close. There were moments, low moments, desperate moments, where I thought about it. Thought about giving up, accepting defeat, making it easier on myself. What stopped me was the other prisoners, the community we'd built through tap code, knowing others were resisting, knowing they were suffering too, knowing I couldn't let them down. That kept me going when nothing else could. The senior POWs maintained military structure through the tap code, chain of command, orders, guidance. They'd organize us, give us purpose, make us more than just individuals suffering alone, make us a unit, a fighting force, still at war, even in captivity. We had covert operations, passing information cell to cell, planning communication systems, creating codes the guards wouldn't understand. Small acts of resistance that gave us agency, made us soldiers again instead of just victims. In 1971, we got word of a raid, Sante. American Special Forces tried to rescue POWs from a camp outside Hanoi. The raid hit an empty camp. We'd been moved earlier. But knowing they'd tried, knowing America hadn't forgotten us, that mattered more than the raid's failure. The guards tightened security after Sante, moved us around more, stricter rules, more punishment for violations. But they also improved conditions slightly. Better food, more exercise, slightly less brutal treatment. They were worried about another rescue attempt, worried about how it would look if we were in terrible condition when rescued. 1972 brought hope. Nixon was negotiating, Paris peace talks, possibility of prisoner exchange. We heard rumors, didn't believe them at first. Too many false hopes before, but this time felt different. This time seemed real. Christmas 1972, they improved our conditions noticeably, moved us out of solitary, put us in larger cells with other prisoners, real contact, actual conversation. After years of isolation, being able to talk to another human being felt surreal, overwhelming, beautiful. I was put in a cell with 5 other prisoners, Air Force pilots mostly. We'd tapped to each other but never met face to face, never spoken aloud. Now we could. We talked for hours, days, catching up, sharing stories, forming real bonds instead of just tap code connections. They told us war stories, what they'd done before capture, how they'd been shot down, what torture they'd endured. We compared experiences, found commonality, found brotherhood, found humanity in hell. January 1973, Paris Peace Accord signed. Ceasefire. Prisoner exchange confirmed. We were going home, really going home. After 5 years, after 6 years, after 7 years, going home. The guards treated us better, gave us more food, let us exercise, preparing us to be seen, making sure we wouldn't look too broken when released, making sure their treatment wouldn't be too obvious, covering their tracks. We didn't care. We were going home. That's all that mattered. February 12th, 1973. They came to my cell. You are being released. Gather your possessions. My possessions. I had nothing, just the clothes I wore. Everything else had been taken years ago. But I gathered myself, prepared to leave the cage I'd lived in for so long. They processed us, medical checks, weighed us, photographed us, documentation for their records, Proof they'd kept us alive. Proof their treatment wasn't too barbaric. All for show, all lies. Then they put us on buses, drove us through Hanoi. I saw the city for the first time since being shot down. 6 years had passed. The city looked different, war-torn, bomb-damaged, but alive, functioning. While we'd been dying in cages, life had continued. We arrived at Jialam Airport, American planes waiting, C-141 Starlifters, Freedom Birds, home. I couldn't believe it was real, couldn't trust it, kept waiting for them to change their minds, to drag us back to the prisons, to say it was all a trick. They lined us up, called names. We walked to the planes, one by one. I watched the prisoners ahead of me, saw them reach the plane, saw them board, saw them escape. My turn came. I walked, each step deliberate, controlled. Afraid if I moved too fast, they'd stop me. Afraid if I showed emotion, they'd punish me one last time. Just walk, just get to the plane, just survive 10 more seconds. I reached the stairs, started climbing. Halfway up, I turned, saluted the North Vietnamese officer watching. Smart-ass moment, showing defiance, showing I'd survived, showing they hadn't broken me completely. Then I boarded the plane. Inside were American flight crew, real Americans, not guards, not captors, friends, allies, home. "Welcome aboard, sir," the crew chief said. "You're going home." I couldn't speak, couldn't form words, just nodded, sat down, strapped in. The plane started moving, taxiing, taking off. Wheels up. We were flying away from Hanoi, away from the prisons, away from hell. Men were crying, laughing, praying, disbelieving. 6 years, 5 years, 7 years of captivity. Over, done, survived. We landed in the Philippines, Clark Air Base, processing center, medical evaluation, debriefing. But first, the phone. We could call home, actually call home, hear our families' voices. I called my wife. The phone rang. She answered. "Hello? It's me," I said. "It's David. I'm coming home." She screamed, crying, laughing, disbelieving. "You're alive. You're really alive. I knew you were alive. I knew it." We talked for 20 minutes. I learned the divorce letter was fake. Learned she'd waited, stayed faithful, written me hundreds of letters I never received, maintained hope when I'd lost it. I learned my parents were alive. My brother had gotten married. Life had continued while I was frozen in time. 6 years had passed. The world had changed. I'd missed everything. After the Philippines, they flew us to the States, different groups on different flights. I landed at Travis Air Force Base in California, March 15th, 1973. American soil, home, after 2,103 days. The reception was overwhelming. Crowds, cameras, bands playing, flags everywhere. Heroes welcome. They called us heroes. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a survivor, like someone who'd endured and somehow not died. That's not heroism. That's just stubbornness. My wife was there, my parents. I barely recognized them, 6 years older, 6 years of worry showing on their faces, but there, real, alive, home. We embraced. I held my wife. Really held her. First time in 6 years. She felt different. Smaller, maybe. Or I'd forgotten what human touch felt like. Forgotten what love felt like. Forgotten what normal felt like. They took us to hospitals, medical evaluation, treatment for injuries, refeeding programs, couldn't just eat normally after years of starvation, physical therapy, dental work, psychological evaluation, trying to put us back together. The physical healing was straightforward. Gain weight, treat infections, fix the damage. The psychological healing, that was different. That was harder. That was maybe impossible. This is March 1980, 7 years since release, 7 years of being home, 7 years of trying to be normal, trying to reintegrate, trying to be the man I was before. I'm not that man. Can't be. 6 years in a cage changes you permanently. Torture changes you. Starvation changes you. You don't come back from that unchanged. You don't come back whole. The nightmares started immediately. Every night, sometimes multiple times. I'm back in the cell, back in ropes, back being tortured, back thinking I'll never leave. Wake up screaming, covered in sweat. My wife holding me, telling me it's okay, I'm home, I'm safe. But I don't feel safe, don't feel home, feel like I'm still there, still prisoner 447, still in the cage. The doctors call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Clinical term for being broken. They say it's treatable, therapy, medication, time. It'll get better. Maybe, eventually. 7 years later, it's not better, just different. I've learned to function, go to work, still in the Navy, command position, interact with people, maintain relationships, play the role of normal. But inside, I'm still in that cell. Still counting days, still wondering if I'll survive. Loud noises trigger me, crowds trigger me, small spaces trigger me, authority figures trigger me. So many triggers, so many landmines in everyday life. I navigate around them, mostly successfully, sometimes not. My marriage survived, but barely. My wife is patient, understanding, but she's living with a stranger. The man who came back isn't the man who left. I try to be him. Try to remember who I was, can't. That person died in Hanoi. What came back is someone else. Someone broken. Someone haunted. Someone less. We have kids now, born after I came back. I love them. Think I love them. Hard to tell. The emotions are muted, dulled. 6 years of suppressing feelings to survive left me unable to fully feel anymore. I go through motions of fatherhood. Hope it's enough. Fear it isn't. Other POWs are struggling too. We have reunions, share experiences, support each other. Only people who understand are those who were there. Civilians don't get it, can't get it. Even other veterans don't fully understand. You had to be in those cages, had to endure that specific hell. Otherwise, you can't comprehend it. Some prisoners of war are doing better. Successful careers, happy families, functioning normally. Good for them. They escape the cage mentally as well as physically. I envy them. Some are doing worse. Divorces, substance abuse, suicides. 3 POWs from my camp have killed themselves since release. Couldn't cope, couldn't integrate, couldn't escape the memories, chose permanent escape instead. I understand the impulse. There are dark days, days where I think about it, days where the weight is too much, the memories too vivid, the pain too constant. But I don't do it, don't know why. Stubbornness, maybe. Same stubbornness that kept me alive in the cage. Survive one more day, then another, then another. The country doesn't know what to do with us. Vietnam vets are treated like pariahs, baby killers, war criminals, losers of an unjust war. POWs get slightly better treatment. We're victims, not perpetrators. But still, the war is unpopular. We're reminders of failure, of shame, of a war America wants to forget. I don't blame them for wanting to forget. I want to forget too. Can't. It's burned into me. Permanent, indelible, part of who I am now. They ask me if I'm angry at North Vietnam, at the guards, at the government that sent me to war, at the protesters who called us killers, at everyone who didn't stop the war sooner, at the wasted years, the wasted suffering. I'm not angry. Anger requires energy I don't have. Anger requires caring deeply. I can't care deeply anymore, just feel numb, disconnected, empty. The cage took that from me, took my ability to feel strongly, left me hollow. I'm grateful I survived. Grateful I came home. Grateful my wife waited. Grateful my family still loves me. Grateful I have another chance at life. even if I don't fully know how to live it anymore. 7 years. 2,555 days since release. More time free than I spent captive. The math says I should be healed. The reality says I'm not. Maybe never will be. Maybe this is healing. Learning to function while broken. Learning to live with memories you can't escape. Learning to be human again, even when you're not sure what human means anymore. I spent 2,103 days in a cage. That's what I said at the beginning. It's true. But the cage came home with me. I'm still in it, just invisible now. Made of memories instead of concrete. Made of trauma instead of bars. But just as real, just as confining, just as permanent. The physical cage ended March 14th, 1973. The mental cage continues 7 years later, probably forever. That's the truth of captivity. That's what torture does. That's the real cost of survival. I survived. I'm home. I'm free. Those are facts. But freedom is more complicated than geography. You can leave the cage, but the cage doesn't leave you. It becomes part of you, defines you, changes you into something other than what you were. 7 years later, I'm still learning what that something is, still learning who I am now, still learning how to live outside the cage while still being in it, still learning how to survive survival. This is 1980, 7 years after Hanoi, a lifetime after the man I was. I'm writing this so people understand, so they know what captivity is really like, what torture really does, what coming home really means when home is just another kind of prison. I spent 2,103 days in a cage. But the cage wasn't the worst part. The worst part is that the cage never ends. You carry it with you, forever. A cell made of memories, bars made of trauma, locked doors made of experiences you can't escape. I survived the cage, but I'll never be free of it. None of us will. That's the truth they don't tell you. That's the cost of captivity. That's what 7 years later really means. Still counting days, still surviving, still waiting for a freedom that never quite comes. Still in the cage.